Welcome, welcome, welcome to TBA's annual meeting. It's an exciting one. Woohoo! We really thank you guys for coming. It's so nice to see this room filled, and it's so nice to be able to share a meal together and spend some time together. So on that note, we will start with our revered and honored rabbi, who's going to talk for a while. I want to say Shabbat Shalom, but that's not it. It's the rabbi's report time. Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So, whenever my father-in-law of blessed memory, Herbie Weiss, would come over to our house, I would greet him with a big hug. And I'd say, Herbie, how are you? And he would always, I want to emphasize the word always, every time. He would say, well, I've got good news and I've got bad news. And then we were off. He had a 15-minute monologue of puns, jokes, and more puns. This drove his wife, second wife, he'd already driven one crazy, his second wife drove her crazy. Her eyes would roll in ways that reminded me of The Exorcist. The rest of the family would follow suit to a greater or lesser extent, but I kind of liked it. He would not stop and had no shame telling the same jokes repeatedly over all of the 40 plus years that I knew him. And I miss him. I bring him up because here we are at our annual meeting of Temple Beth Avodah. And it is exciting, as Carol mentioned, to see so many people here, as well as the folks that are streaming in. So let me say in the words of my father-in-law, Herbie Weiss, I've got good news and I've got bad news. First, the bad news. I promised in the third week of October that no gathering at our temple would proceed without acknowledging the war in Gaza. The war in Gaza is a black cloud that hovers over us, threatening always to burst open. 7 months have passed and we are still struggling with how to handle this crisis. There are 120 hostages still being held in Gaza, treated with ruthless violence and torture. Over 12,000 Gazan children have been killed. There seems to be no end in sight, no ceasefire agreement, no way out. In America, college campuses became staging areas for anti-Israel protests. These events, the encampments, the posters, the anti-Zionist slogans, the flags were for the most part sponsored by students who were attracted to the plight of the Palestinians. And Palestinians have had a very tough go of it since 1948. They've lived their lives under occupation. They have no citizenship. They have no passports. They have next to no agency. They deserve champions. All oppressed people deserve champions. But the not so subtle nuance is that not all Palestinians are Hamas. And Hamas is a brutal dictatorial terrorist organization that calls for the destruction of Israel. There are nihilists who have no sense of the value of human life and humanity itself. That no one discusses Hamas and their bloody political agenda in any of those encampments or in endless anti-Zionist social media postings is unforgivable. I have not seen any acknowledgement of the brutal attacks by Hamas. I have not seen a moment of silence for the victims. I have not seen any of the keffiyeh-wearing Jewish kids pass a hat for the hostages. This is utterly unacceptable It ignores the crime that ignited the maelstrom. And regarding anti-Semitism, this war in Gaza has become a tipping point all over the world for vehement condemnation of Israel, which inevitably rubs off on us. Being Jewish today is more problematic than at any time since the Holocaust. This war puts us thousands of miles away in harm's way. This war has rolled out the red carpet for Jew hatred. This is what's real. To quote Robert De Niro from The Deer Hunter, this is this. It is raw and looming. October 7th has changed our lives with more force than any event since 9/11. Nothing will be as it was tomorrow. I told you there was bad news. And yet I would also argue that right now, we are deeply engaged in making good news. Look, our people have lived through terrible times that were exponentially more violent, painful, and terrifying. But we can do this because we have and we will. We can do this, accept the rose with the thorns, the honeybee and the sting, the blessing and the curse. I guess now that I'm at the age of being a revered rabbi, I want to say that I don't know what age it happens, but you suddenly wake up one morning and you say, life is not an unalloyed pleasure cruise. It's an invitation to see the truth, to acknowledge how dark it can get, and how all it takes to curse the darkness is to light a candle. We are building and nurturing the TBA community, providing a sense of home and safety for our people. We've had a banner year for welcoming new members of the family and for retaining current membership. Our new membership model has created a true opportunity for our people to think of their financial commitment not as dues, but as an investment in the temple and as a guarantor that we can provide for everyone today and tomorrow. Your strong support of our membership model means all of us can depend on TBA to continue to be present for you in the best of times and the worst of times, when there's the best good news, when there's terrible bad news. We see a renaissance in adult learning, in Shabbat attendance. It's so heartening to know that when we count the streaming TBA congregation with those who are physically present in the temple, we break records. We are showing up for each other. Because this dedication to gathering and learning and connecting is not a superficial tertiary concern, I would argue that it's everything. With one candle, we pierce the darkness. But what happens when you, tired, discouraged, sitting at home in the dark, either literally or figuratively, with your extinguished candle somewhere on the dining room table, and you're feeling that darkness? You look and you see out the window, there's a spark of light in the distance. What if I'm ready to extend one hand in friendship and the other hand with my torch so you can light your own candle? And then what happens when one by one, we look to everyone else's windows, to their candles, and then we light them? We create a center of light, a star, a beacon that beckons. That is what community is for, providing light, safety, and empathy and trust. It's an odd metaphor, but we're gathering the wagons even as we're rolling forward. I am so lucky that I work with a team of torchbearers, people who shed light, who are continually lighting the darkness to show the way. So let me start in the basement. So that's where the action is, really. Our ELC is the portal to everything that happens here. As I say your name, would you just stand up for a minute so people can see you? So Rebecca Bazin and Stacy Gabriel, Gabby Rita. These women are remarkable in what they do down there. And we see them as they bubble up the steps and into the halls and outside on the playground. And I really want you, I mean, you know, I have to say this, but I'm only going to say it also because I really believe it with all my heart. Every child that comes in to the ELC, members, not members, Jewish, not Jewish, it is utterly irrelevant. When they walk in and they're part of our ELC, they are part of our world, and they are loved, taught with dignity and care. And largely responsible for that is Heidi Baker. Please stand up, Heidi. Heidi's been here 1 year longer than me, so she's been here for 28 years. And she treats her students like her own kids, and I can also say grandkid. She is a nationally well-known educator and a truly tireless, vigilant supervisor. Heidi directs the Talking Challah with passion and expertise. She also directs education on the first and even on the second floor with help from Stacy Gabriel, Eva Willard Bauer. Please stand, Eva. And by the way, Eva, bat mitzvah class of 2012, and our rabbinic intern, Michaela Brown, who was ordained this past weekend, Mazel Tov. Going off to the great Midwest, and we wish you great mazel and a heavy winter coat. As we say around here, thank you for your service. And also Eva is great taking care of our youth group activities, and the kids love her. And I'll tell you why with one sentence, not just because she grew up here, but because she's cool. That's very important. Jenna Walker, if you please stand. Jenna loves attention. Jenna is the person on point, the face behind the counter, and that incredibly sophisticated voice on the other end. She classes this place up. It's that, not only is it the British accent, it's her keen British sense of humor. And she's the only person on the staff that does not swear, by the way. It's a kind of an amazing thing. Doug Ball's not here. He's celebrating his son's graduation from high school. But I want to say he's the other man on full-time staff. So we kind of hang together. He's a very important person. He sets up, cleans up, puts up with a lot. His love of TBA and his commitment to the temple is infinite. It shows in how committed he is to every program that happens. Along with Willie and David in the kitchen, he takes care of it all. A funny thing happened this afternoon on the way to the annual meeting, which is that Eileen Brooks stood up, which she does often. Only unfortunately, she twisted one way and her ankle twisted the other. Rebecca Bazin, our on-point first aid coach, drove her to Newton Wellesley Hospital. She could still be sitting in the emergency room for all we know, but unfortunately she couldn't be here, which is a drag on any number of counts, because I would say, if in my metaphor, the staff are all torch bearers, she lights the signal fire on top of the mountain via social media. And virtually everything we send out to the public bears her stamp, her symbol of approval. Without it, it doesn't go. And I don't know if you know this, but I just want to brag. We did a TikTok video about 4 years ago, and it ended up having over 800,000 clicks. And it was about how Jews feel about tattoos. And if you haven't seen it yet, see if you can find it. It'll bring our numbers up. Alexa Weintraub, would you please stand up? Alexa Bat Mitzvah, class 2013. So who knew when a water skiing daredevil entered into the temple kind of saying, I'm kind of between things. I know I've gone on a couple Israel trips. I've done this and that, but you got anything I can do? From that moment where she also spent some time in the basement, but ends up that she has now become, among other things, and I say this with so much joy and things, she's become my girl Friday. And any of you who've tried to reach me, contact me, or set a date on the calendar, you are feeling the ease, the joy, the notion that it can be done without there being double booking, because Alexa's taking care of it. And along with Jenna, she has enabled me to do my work more efficiently, which at this stage is a pretty darn good thing. So Alexa, thank you. Emma Rayfeld. Our chanteuse, our cantor, our gute neshama. It has been such a pleasure to work with you over this past year. Your contagious laughter, your broad repertoire, your leadership skills with kids and adults, your horse are all qualities we admire. You dominate in so many ways. We feel so lucky to have you. Ladies and gentlemen, Becky Oliver. I was trying to think of metaphors with light to be consistent because they teach you that in rabbi school, but I went a different direction for Becky. Becky is the long haul driver of TBA. She sits in the rig. She knows how to get out when needed to hook it up. She knows how to change the rig, make sure the hitch is solid. She knows how to pack the back, the 18-wheeler, so it doesn't slide all over the highway. She knows all about how to put stuff in the right order. She knows how to read the map, how to read the spreadsheet. She knows so much stuff. And I mean, you fix, you call, you write, you add, you subtract, you budget, you supervise. I can say on behalf of this entire congregation and as someone who's had the joy to work with you, is that you really are absolutely essential to make this temple happen. We have a joke. We have several jokes, but one of them is how it works out so perfectly because I love to be in front of the room and she loves to be at the back of the room. And we've always worked that. Here we are again. We have a remarkable crew of lay people who work with our staff. Many of you who are in the room are on the board, will be on the board, have been on the board. Some of you are just really happy and grateful congregants. No matter what aspect of that you relate to. We have built over the years a relationship of trust and respect. The past presidents who are in the room tonight, if you're a past president, would you just please stand up for a minute? Past presidents of TBA. You have dedicated so much time as volunteers to bring a kind of authenticity, integrity, and transparency to this temple. You've done it because you want it to be home, not just another place, to be home. And that shows in the numbers of people who are here, in the work that we do, in the plans that we have. We're looking into a new year filled with anxieties and premonitions. The cloud is there, but so too is a promise, a covenant made millennia ago, a covenant built on a history, but also predicated on a future. So if we were at a concert, I'd ask everyone to take out your phones and put the light on, the flashlight, and wave it back and forth. But I'm not going to ask you to do that. But I want you to imagine, right? I want you to imagine that your responsibility as a member of this congregation, as a good Jew, as a good person, is to turn on your light, to let it shine. And I will ask you simply that you walk forward with us as a partner of Beth Avodah, spreading light and sharing the promise. Thank you. I am now honored to invite Lisa Cohen to the microphone. Lisa has just come back from a very moving and important mission to Israel with JNF. She's not going to talk about it tonight. You might, who knows? But she has something else very important to talk about legacy giving. And tell you.
Thank you, Rabbi, for your wise and thoughtful remarks. And I hate that I have to follow you because you're the best speaker. Okay, so I wanted to just talk for a few minutes about legacy giving, why it's important, why it became important to me. About 25 years ago, I was shopping for a good temple with my family. We joined 2 other temples before we came here. So this was our 3rd temple in the course of about 5 years. As soon as we walked in the door, we felt a warmth and sort of a family feel, and we just felt like we belonged here. It felt like home. And so fast forward 22 years, I'm still here, and I'm definitely more involved now than I was then, but I raised my kids here. These pictures are from the Israel trip from 2005 with the temple, all the kids at the top. Those are my kids at the bottom. We were planting trees. We had the most wonderful trip with Rabbi Stern, and from that moment on, it kind of sealed the deal for me that this was going to be a really important part of my life. So shortly after that trip, I met with my financial planner and my estate planning attorney, who's Bill Friedler, who's here, to try to talk about what to do in terms of my life insurance and my plan for giving after I'm gone. And he said, well, what are your most important nonprofits? What are the most important things that you want to support for the future? So the temple was really my first thought, was the first thing that came to my mind. Of course, I have other charities, but the temple was first. So I decided to move forward because the future of TBA is really important to me. Next slide. So if you decide that you want to put Temple Beth Avodah in your legacy plan, you can do it in a number of ways. You can put it in your will. You can put the temple named in your retirement account as a donor advised fund, or in your life insurance policy. Next. There's no minimum requirement. You don't need to have the resources right now to make a commitment for the future. You can designate this at any time in your life. And if you believe that TBA's vision and future success are important to you and you really want to give back, I ask that you consider it in your plan. There are also lots of tax saving implications in legacy giving, and we can talk about that down the road. Next slide. We talk about Lador Vador, which is from generation to generation. So besides doing a wonderful mitzvah for the temple, think about the example that you're setting for your children and your grandchildren by showing them that you are committed to the TBA community and to the Jewish community as a whole. Our founders 60 years ago did a lot and sacrificed a lot for us to exist. They mortgaged their homes. They helped build our spaces. They set up an endowment. And we're just asking that you think about doing that for our future as well. In the fall, we're going to have an informational session. Bill Friedler and a couple of his colleagues are going to come and just answer questions, talk about the different opportunities that you may have. And we'll set a date for that in the fall and let you know when that will be. We're also going to have a recognition event for anyone who is in this legacy society. And we'll do something special like we used to do for the sustaining fund that we don't really have anymore. So this will be kind of a new opportunity for gathering and recognizing those folks who decide to name TBA in their estate plan. And next slide, I think, is my last. We would like you to plant the seeds for our future. This is my recent trip to Israel. That's Risa Aronson. We, as part of our mission, we planted a tree. We were each given a card of someone who had died in the October 7th attack, and we planted a tree in their memory. It was very, very moving. I had a 12-year-old boy, and yeah, it was really tough. I basically cried the whole day. But that's what we're talking about, is planting seeds for our future. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa. And thank you, Rabbi, for all those great words. I'm going to introduce or bring up to the microphone Carolyn Snyder. Carolyn is our chair of our Leadership Development Committee. She has done an amazing job across many years, and give her a warm welcome.
As you know now, I'm Carolyn Snyder, Committee Chair of Leadership Development. One of the responsibilities of Leadership Development team is to implement and run TBA's Atidenu program. This is our cohort from this year. We are grateful to Michelle Spitzkoff, who chairs this program. Unfortunately, she could not be here tonight to speak in honor of the participants. For those of you that don't know, the Atidenu program engages members of the congregation in strategic conversations about TBA today and into the future, hoping to inspire emerging temple leaders. This year, we had a fabulous group. I would like to honor them now. If you are here, please stand when I call your name. Marcela Almeida, Edna Hamburger, Lauren Levy. I didn't see here. I don't think she's there. Ilana Pavlovsky, also not here. Mira Woods. Sorry. And Mike Zakin. Yay. To all of you, thank you for engaging in this program and creating fabulous strategic ideas for the future of our temple.
Thanks, Carolyn, but her duties are not yet finished. So one of the other things that happens at this time in annual meeting is we get to talk about our board and the changes that are going to be at our board. So I'd like to have Alyssa Husnoff, Margot Rosenbach, Josh Baumer, and Stacy Schwartz come on up. So we will be presenting you with a gift after we get that part organized, but I'm going to get to talk about you guys first. So Alyssa has been on the engagement task force as the chair. She's also been on the education committee and the planning events, and we appreciate so much her service. So thank you, Alyssa. Margot Rosenbach has been on community and programming, including highlighting the boomers with our friend Deborah over there, as well as the transition task force, and she's also been a key member of the executive committee. So thank you, Margot. I don't believe Josh could be with us because there's a senior in his house, and you guys know what that means. But Josh was on the education committee, the membership task force, and health and safety, and as well as security. And finally, Stacy. Stacy as the immediate past president, the woman who taught me everything I needed to know and didn't need to know as president. She was the educational chair, transition task force, health and safety, and more and more and more, and really a beloved confidant all the way through. So thank you so much. So what we're giving each of you is a book handpicked by the rabbi just for you. So they're not the same. You can't compare and go, oh, what'd you get? And you can't trade either. Thank you guys so very much. We have one other very special person to bring up tonight, and that's Bonnie Billender. Bonnie? Come on up, Bonnie. The price is right. All by your lonesome. So for those of you who don't know, Bonnie has spent 52 years on the board. It's just incredible that she's dedicated as much of her time and energy, intelligence, wisdom. She was a mentor to me. As I want to also do is just a quick plug for Harvey, who also is one of my mentors all the way through this. But Bonnie in particular has been nothing but kind and generous and thoughtful, and only put TBA first for all things and all reasons. So with that, we'd like to thank you with this special gift. I will tell you what it is, so you don't have to guess, but you can open it up later or whenever you want. It is a engraved picture frame for you, and in it we have included some pictures all across your different times and within. So when you get bored with a picture like Stacy's and you want to pull it out, you can put somebody else's in. Thank you so much, Bonnie. I also want to quickly acknowledge Jeremy Goldfarb. Jeremy is going to remain on the board. He's not done yet, but he is stepping down from the executive committee. So thank you so much, Jeremy, for all of your time and energy. And I will thank the entire board that's here today and the ones who are coming onto the board potentially next year for all of your hard work that you've already done and to come. So thank you. Okay, you ready, Carolyn? All right, we're going to nominations. So it's time for nominating the next board. Carolyn?
Okay, I will say a little bit, Bonnie. Bonnie spoke at my bat mitzvah and still remembers my speech. I just have to tell you all that. So it means a big deal to me now. All right, now on to board nominations. The nominations for the upcoming board 24-25 are on your screen here. I'm grateful to our leadership committee for their hard work in helping to form the future leaders of TBA and creating this slate of nominations. First, we are pleased to nominate to the executive committee for the first time. And please stand if you hear your name. Lisa Cohen. Sarah Dretchen. She leaves. And Jeff Tarmy. They will be joining myself, Bruce Blakely, David Cohen, and of course, James Naharney as president to create the Temple's executive board. In addition, and also please stand, we are nominating to the board for their first term, John Simon. John here, yay. I didn't see. Mike Wiesel. And Mike Seiko. And finally, the following people are being nominated for a second 3-year term ending in 2027. Margie Ross Dector, Beth Kozin, Adam Rozika, and Michelle Spitzkoff. Where's Adam Rizika? Sorry. I'm sorry. Did I not say that? Yeah, okay. So our past presidents on the board will also include Ellen Mizell and our immediate past president, Cal Rodenstein. Please, if anybody has any questions for the new board, now's
Okay.
your time.
Are there any further nominations? Do I have a motion to approve the board nominations as shown on the slide? A second? We'll now open the voting. For those of you online, you can vote via the poll. In the room, those in person, you can vote verbally. All in favor? All opposed? Abstain? And online? We got the go. Approved. Thank you all. Congratulations, everyone. All right, up next is our beloved, not revered, beloved Executive Director, Becky. It's time.
Sorry, Carol. I'm not. First, James, I'm going to answer your question because I'm sure other people are interested. Looked like there were 9 people online. Got the text as I was walking up. So I have been in this role for 5 years, and of course at TBA much longer. Given what's transpired in the past 5 years, I was curious to go back to my 2019 annual meeting speech and see if it was at all relevant anymore. Turns out, actually, minus the specific examples, I could just read the same speech and you wouldn't even know it. Don't worry, I'm not going to. But I am going to quote myself a few times. So here's how my speech started. If you walk into my office, you may notice on my desk, there's a book called Managing Transitions. In it, there's a reference to what's called the neutral zone, the time when transition has started, but there's still unknown ahead. A time when there are feelings of excitement and trepidation, curiosity and anxiety. Feels pretty accurate. And a love for the new. For most of us, it's somewhere in between. A desire for comfort and consistency, and an excitement about creativity and possibility. The neutral zone provokes experimentation, a search for innovation and balance. And with experimentation comes both the opportunity for success and for failure. This congregation is remarkably willing to experiment and say, yeah, let's try that. That's not new to the past 5 years, but it has become magnified. Experimentation is at our core, and it's driven by our desire to challenge ourselves to grow, connect, and learn in new ways. Over the past 5 years, we've had a number of staff changes. This movement is part of an effort of constant evaluation to ensure that we are best meeting the needs of the congregation in a thoughtful and strategic way. I know this is challenging, and I want to express my tremendous gratitude to the staff for their willingness to commit to our shared vision and to be flexible in this neutral zone filled with experimentation and change. This year, we welcomed Rabbi Michaela Brown as our rabbinic intern, a role we had never had before. We knew this was a 1-year commitment, and we wish her much luck and success as she moves on to her work with college students in the Twin Cities. While we won't be having a rabbinic intern next year, we're excited about the other ways our staff is growing and changing. In our evaluation of the congregation's needs and our staff capacity and time to fulfill those needs, we have identified 2 areas for growth. I'm excited to share that Alexa Weintraub finally accepted a position as TBA's full-time program and administrative coordinator. And tonight is filling in for Eileen. In this role, Alexa will have a stronger presence in our programming efforts and will continue to be the keeper of the calendars. We're thrilled that she decided to move from just helping out to becoming a member of our staff. As we explored the needs of youth and families, we decided to embark upon a search for an additional education staff member. I'm excited to share that today we hired a director of grades 6 through 12, Hannah Baranski. Hannah comes to TBA with a decade of experience in formal and informal Jewish teen programs and leadership and travel experiences for American teens in Israel. She's returning to Massachusetts after living in Israel for a decade and is excited to be joining our educational team. Hannah will be working closely in partnership with Rabbi Stern and of course with Heidi Baker and our educational staff. I'm excited about the ways in which our staff is growing and changing. And I know that this temple is not only successful because of the staff's commitment, but because of the dedication of our lay leadership. We have an extraordinary board and have just elected an equally talented new board, one that is not afraid to experiment, to think differently, to center the current and future needs of the congregation. For the past 3 years, this board has been skillfully led by Carol, who we'll honor in a little bit, so stay tuned for that. I'll end tonight's speech the same way I ended in 2019, because I don't need to reinvent it if I already said it, so. As we move through this neutral zone, we are fortunate in this time of transition to be moving from strength to strength. At the end of each book of the Torah, we say the words chazak, chazak, v'nitchazek. Let us be strong, strong, and be strengthened. Amen.
Back to Shortville. Okay, next up, we're going to talk about our budget and member commitment. Dave, as our fearless treasurer, could you please come up and give us the news? The juicy part.
Might have to adjust this. All right. So just to start with our fiscal 24. So just for all of you who may not be aware, our fiscal year begins on July 1st, ends on June 30th. So we're very close to the end of fiscal 24. And our current projection, so actually just to back up a second, for those of you who spend time looking at financial statements, this is a bit backwards, right? Or upside down, where our expenses, which are at the top, really drive our revenue, right? So we work from what we're spending, both in our operating budget and our non-operating budget, and basically find the way to meet the needs of the temple through the sources of revenue at the bottom of the page. So our operating budget for 2024, approximately 2.3 million. And you can see at the bottom line in an operating column about a $36,000 surplus. We budget towards a break-even budget every year. We have, through good financial management and a little bit of luck, such as state grants, we've managed to have a surplus for several years in a row. So small operating surplus, small non-operating deficit. Non-operating is generally things related to restricted funds, special projects. This year, for example, compared to the prior year, there is no Israel trip, there's no play, there's no solar project. So these numbers are a little lower, and very often there's a mismatch in terms of timing between expenses in the non-operating category and revenue, which revenue meaning donations. But that doesn't mean we are losing money, because we can have reserves that fund some of our non-operating expenses. And overall, this budget for this year is about 6% higher than in 2023. Next page. For those of you in consulting or finance, if you're like me, you love waterfall charts, which is what this is. But this chart really doesn't do justice to the significance of this, the data here, which is that we added new members this year. So if you made this chart in prior years, several of the last few years, you would have seen membership go down. But we basically changed the direction of our membership in thanks largely to our new member commitment model. Next page. So our member commitment model this year I think we've talked about sort of what some of the outcomes have been, and we're very pleased with the outcomes overall. If you look at the top part of the table, you can see, looking at the first two lines, that 70% of the membership of the congregation gave at or above what they gave to the temple, either through dues and sustaining in fiscal 23. And that amount totaled $125,000 more than prior years. Some portion of the congregation, roughly a quarter, 24%, did give less. But if you look at the, and then we did actually have among our new members, even though the first year was free for new members, some of those members actually contributed to the temple, as did members of who have children in the ELC. So between those three lines or four lines, we actually grew our revenue from member commitment by nearly 60,000 versus the prior year. Now, there were some members who resigned, so overall it was a modest increase in revenue for member commitment, but we believe this has been a successful change in our membership model. And obviously we can't be complacent about this, and you will soon be receiving communications about your member commitment for fiscal 25. Looking at the levels of giving at the bottom of the page, the membership commitment task force, which was called the revenue task force previously, had a lot of discussion, a lot of debate about what these levels should be. Ultimately, we anchored around one of these numbers, which was the up to 3,900. So as we looked at the temple's needs in fiscal 24, divided by all the member units or families, the optimal number that we would have received from our members would have been $3,900. But we knew certain members would give more and certain members would give less. And so breaking down across these 5 categories, you can see that a large percentage of the membership did give between 2,500 or up to 2,500 and up to 3,900. But we had some very, very generous contributors in this last year with gifts as high as $30,000. So again, very, very satisfied with the outcome of the model in the first year. Next page. Looking at fiscal 25, which we'll be voting on a little bit later. You can see on the left side is a bar chart of what our expenditures are. The biggest category being salary and benefits for our very talented and dedicated staff, programming and worship, and then, operations and overhead, which includes security, which is notable this year, and programming, worship, and education at the top. A little more detail on the right side, breaking down those categories. You can see as we compare fiscal 24 to fiscal 25, that there are some differences, for example, in the total for programming, education, and worship, an increase from 258 to 310,000. That shouldn't be alarming. Actually, it's based on the fact that now that we're so late in 2024, we've actually eliminated what we call our contingency, which is 2% of our budget for the what if scenario in terms of expenses. We build that back into our fiscal 25 budget, but we didn't spend that money in 24. And so that category is a little bit lower. And then, another notable change is an increase in the payroll and benefits for the professional staff of about 3%. So an overall expense budget of 2.6 million versus last year's 2.35 million. So again, starting with the expenses and then evaluating how we pay for those expenses. So next slide on the budget. So here, looking on the left side of the chart, this actually represents all of our expenditures, including non-operating funds. But starting from the top down, there is K through 12 tuition, other income, which is a big broad category with a number of items such as event rentals, ELC tuition in the darkest yellow, and then what we call our optimal member commitment. So if we look at the prior page and our total expenditures, less those 3 bars in the yellow, then everything else, all the other needs of the temple would be met by our member commitment. That's a goal. That's aspirational. We take the same approach in fiscal 24. Our practical approach to budgeting is over on the right, where we have, again, the revenue from the religious school, other category, ELC, and we are projecting a tuition increase in both the religious school and the ELC. So those lines at the top are taking what our need is, subtracting those lines at the top. We are targeting a membership commitment of about $1.3 million. So you ask, if we look on the left, that's 1.7. We have our tuition and other revenue, and then our member commitment. How else do we meet our need? Well, the temple, and one thing we don't talk about very often, is our balance sheet. So the temple actually has a very, very strong balance sheet with capital invested across really 3 categories, one being our endowment, the biggest one being our endowment, something we call cash management, and then also the door-to-door, which was a fundraising effort 20 odd years ago, which is the gift that keeps on giving. So we budget for 2025 a 5% draw on both the endowment and the cash management, and actually a bigger draw on the door-to-door to pay for the position that the new education position that Becky referenced. So we aren't necessarily expecting all of our need to be met by member commitment, but we have other resources in terms of investment income that will fill any void that we experience. And just it's worth pointing out that we are budgeting up to a 5% draw on our endowment and our cash management. Our pattern has been to budget in that way for the last several years, but actually to draw less. So we have had more of our money remain working for us in the endowment and cash management. And the performance of that fund has actually been very, very good in what has been a very, very choppy, to say the least, market environment over the last few years. Next slide. And actually, I'll stop there for a second. This is a lot of numbers, a lot of words. Does anyone have any questions up to this point? James, no, we can't ask them. So in terms of our member commitment for fiscal 25, again, our optimal contribution, our ideal scenario, if we said we weren't going to take any funds from our investments, would be a total of about 1.7 million, 1.685 million. And again, if we do that sort of averaging math, what is the optimal number divided by all of our member families? That would be 4,100. So that becomes one of our levels of giving over on the right. Those tiers are set based upon our giving trends that we've looked at on a member by member basis over a period of time, as well as our overall budget need. And one benefit this year is that we have had those new members join, and we anticipate some of them will hopefully find exceptional value in being a member of the temple and will contribute in their second year as members. So over on the right, we did set new levels slightly higher at the lower 2 tiers. You remember it was 2,500 and 3,900. Those have been bumped up, call it roughly 5%, mid-single digits. And we've left the other categories the same. Anchor, builder, patron, those categories are considered lead donors. And we've sort of have numbers out there like up to 15,000. But again, we're not setting a limit. People can give really commensurate with what they feel the value is that they get from the temple. And again, we had gifts as high as $30,000 in fiscal 24. So that takes us to basically the end of my talk, where we looking at the proposed budget for 2025. Do you want to call the vote? Again, any questions on any of these numbers?
Any questions for Dave?
Or the approach that we take to managing the budget?
The answer is lower enrollment. The question was, what are the 2 numbers on that? Other questions? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the budget as shown on the slide? Second. We'll now open the voting. For those of you online, you can vote in the poll. For those in person, vote verbally. All in favor? All opposed? Abstain? Shanna, how are we doing online? We got to give them a second. They can't click as fast as you guys can verbally vote. We're good to go. Motion is approved. Great job. Thank you, Dave. On the list is Carol stuff from Becky. So now I'm afraid.
So as you know, this is Carol's final annual meeting as president. Mazel tov. Of course, we have a few things for Carol. We did discuss doing a Zumba routine, but then, Eileen hurt her ankle, so we had to cut it. No, we just, those of you who were at last year's annual meeting may remember that we sang a song and that was really bad. So we decided not to do the dancing this year. But we do have a little video that Eileen put together and that the staff helped with. So Shauna, is the speaker on in front of you? Beautiful, thank you. Let's get started. You don't get to come up yet. But I would like to invite Harvey and Linda Weiner up to say a few words. Carol didn't know that, by the way.
Can you hear me? Harvey and I were honored to have been asked to say a few words about the TBA presidency of Carol Rodenstein with the E. To say that Carol was a great president is a gross understatement. She utilized her extraordinary personal skills, her intellect and judgment, and her energy to make our temple a better place. She, as you know, has an infectious smile. You can see it in all those pictures, and a warm, warm heart. Her leadership skills were such that few could refuse her. When she asked Harvey to be on the cantorial leader search committee, he couldn't refuse, and he had a great excuse. He's tone deaf. She has led the board in the executive board meetings. She successfully shepherded the 60th anniversary celebration and exhibition, as well as the new temple vision statement and the temple dues restructuring. Carol, a dancer and singer of some renown, and also a Zumba instructor, appeared in 2 TBA musicals and 1 Purim spiel during her presidency, as well as being a member of the TBA choir. I don't know how she does it all. She did this while dealing with numerous personal and professional responsibilities. Each year, she held a very large Seder and Erev Rosh Hashanah dinner in her home. She has lovingly cared for her aging and ill parents, one of whom sadly has passed away very recently. She was always there for them. She had a demanding professional job from which she just retired. More time for us to play. Finally, she had to deal with the illness and death of Ruby, her magnificent cat. However, she will now hold the best title ever in the Jewish world, immediate past president. Now she will be able to legally attend the annual Mount Rushmore Past Presidents Dinner, where with the other has-beens, she can reminisce about past temple glories. So thank you, Carol, for all you've done for the temple in the past 3 years and for the years before that. Mark, Jossie, Marissa, and Sam, I'm saying the same thing they said. We return her to you with our unending gratitude and thank you for your 3-year loan of Carol.
You know, every president, and I've seen a lot of presidents, every president has their own particular areas of interest and concern, pet projects. Some presidents came for virtually every service, every program, almost like essentially, and the problem was we never really had an extra room for them, but they never didn't bother them. They would, like, I'll sleep on the couch. it's been really extraordinary to work with so many different people. They call it the same job, the presidency, but every president, every temple president thinks about it as a reflection of their commitment to Judaism. And we are always the beneficiaries of that love, that commitment, that expression of gratitude that shows up in the work. And it is work. It's a lot of work. Here's what I want to say about our outgoing president. There are many things I could say. But, and this is something that Emma would join me in saying, as her predecessor Susan would say. You know, when you're sitting during services, you're pretty much, looking left to right and at the head of the person in front of you. But we get to see all of you from the Bima. We get to look. And a lot of you are paying attention. Occasionally, some of you are nodding off or on the phone or talking to the person sitting next. We keep score. I might as well tell you that we have box scores for every president. But here's the thing about Carol. Without fail, she was with us almost every Shabbat, Friday night. But when Carol is with you at services, it's not just she's in that chair and she's next to this person. When Carol's in services, she is transported. The experience is for her a spiritual journey every single Shabbat. Her neshama, her soul, fills the entire room, not just the community room, which is smaller, but even in the big sanctuary. And I think that her demeanor, her joie de vivre, her absolute joy at being in temple on Shabbat is an expression of her goodness, of her essence. And it was that goodness and that essence that she shared with us, not just as a staff, but with us collectively as a congregation. And it's something that I will never, never forget. And I will always appreciate. And my guess is that Carol will not slowly fade away from Friday night services, but will continue to be that loving and spiritual presence. And so, Carol, if you'd please come up here. I'd like you to open this little package. So it is a pendant, and it says, I don't have glasses to see that, but you can depend on me. You can get a magnifying glass, or maybe Mark's eyes are better. No, probably not. This is a pendant that says Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor. And really, in so many ways, it fits not just the extraordinary wife she is, or mother, or daughter. For those reasons alone, you deserve this pendant. But really, as the president of this congregation, you have been a woman of valor, an example, and a comfort to all of us. So wear it in good health, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, staff. That was incredible. I didn't remember I did all those things. Thank you, Becky, for not talking. None of them good, but really a lot. My favorite Zumba picture did make it. It was Zumba during COVID, so we were wearing masks. And I was expecting Becky to talk about how I can never make a decision about a meal. Like whenever it was lunch, I was waiting for it. You surprised me. So, good evening. Tonight I am addressing you for the last time as your president. So many people have asked me, even tonight, is it bittersweet? Am I ready for my term to be over? I would say both. But my predominant emotions are gratitude and pride. I am grateful for the opportunity and the experience, and the past 3 years has far exceeded my expectations. I am so proud of us as a community, how we've come together, how TBA has grown, and our path for the future. Let me start by setting the stage for the beginning of my presidency. It was July of 2021. After great success, Stacy Schwartz passed the presidency to me after a very difficult 1.5 years of COVID. We had completed this incredible building renovation, but we were not really using our new space. We were still predominantly online, and we were unsure whether people would come back into the building, let alone whether they would remain as members. We knew we were in a serious state of transition, and we were bracing ourselves for continued challenging times. That fall, we offered the congregation the first opportunity in 2 years to attend High Holidays in person. And you all came back. Over my presidency, we've learned how to use our exceptional new facility, from the foyer to the cafe, from the boardroom to our breathtaking community room. We've come together, capitalized, and thrived in our new spaces. But equally important, we also learned that in person was not the only way to be part of our Temple family. But in fact, an online presence is critical to our ability to reach our congregants and attract new people to our community. We've invested in and committed to elevating both our in-person and online experience, and will continue to do so as we replace our audio-visual system in the sanctuary this summer. You can clap for that, because that's we're super stoked about it. TBA has embraced this hybrid, multifaceted approach, and it has enabled us to be an even stronger congregation, which is a source of tremendous satisfaction and pride. While engaging members and prospective members as a priority, the executive committee and the board imagined a new membership model to stay current, vibrant, and viable in the long run. We studied the changing demographics of our local area and the trends in American Jewry. This significant cultural shift began with open, honest, and transparent conversations. By reaching out to the congregation to explain the new model, we enabled everyone to have a voice and ask questions. After over 1 year of preparation, we rolled out the new member commitment model. As you heard today from Dave, it's been well received with overwhelming success and appreciation from our congregation. Members have recognized the model's simplicity and straightforward approach to understand the impact that each individual and member family has on TBA's well-being. This new model is not just about financial contributions. It's about promoting open dialogue, engagement, and connection. To that end, we instilled a new outreach program where the board reaches out to every member family in TBA at least 3 times a year. This provides an ongoing interactive opportunity for communication between our congregants and the board. One of the most wonderful outcomes from implementing the new member commitment model has been how much easier and more accessible it is to join our TBA community. In fact, as you saw on the slide, we have over 43 new member families far surpassing the number of new members that we have acquired in any one given year over the last decade. However, it is not enough just to gain these members. We have to retain them. It is up to each and every one of us to cultivate a temple environment that is inclusive and welcoming so that all members feel accepted and part of our TBA family. I believe we have just scratched the surface with our member commitment, and as we reach out to new geographic areas, as well as friends, families, and even former members, Temple Beth Avodah will continue to grow and strengthen. Another significant transition that we made over the course of my presidency was the retirement of our beloved cantorial soloist of 17 years, Susan Glickman. As we held listening sessions and learned from the congregation what was needed and important, we began an extensive search for someone with the right fit and qualities. And we were lucky and blessed enough to be selected and select Emma Rayfield. Emma's transition into the congregation over the last year has been monumental. She has learned the TBA melodies, something that I had not appreciated until she told me she had to learn over 30 different melodies for high holidays. And she's introduced us to new music and teachings. Her voice is so beautiful and takes us to a higher level. Emma's warmth and personal approach with people of all ages makes her a natural fit for our congregation. Her talent, energy, and enthusiasm has been a welcome addition to our TBA family. I cannot wait to see where she takes our music in the future. I am proud to have served as the president as we celebrated our 60th anniversary. Through time and energy of so many people, our temple was transformed into a curated museum reflecting on the development and changes over the last 6 decades. With a focus on the founders, legacy families, seniors, new members, children, Israel trips, and a spotlight on the arts over the years, the extraordinary interactive displays highlighted the best of TBA. The culmination with Jazz Shabbat was the icing on the cake. I don't know about you, but I couldn't stop smiling as I watched so many people pass through, read the information, look at the photographs, and watch all the films. As you can see, I'm elated and so profoundly proud of the growth and positive direction of our temple. But I hope you noticed that I do not take credit solely for these improvements. These changes are due to the hard work of many dedicated individuals, clergy, staff, lay leaders, and the strength of my family. I know that I don't have the time to thank every person at length, but I need to express some of my gratitude. First, to my family, to my mom and my mother-in-law, the remaining matriarchs of our family. I love you both so much, and you have been a strength and a words of wisdom throughout my life. To my husband, Mark, who has picked up the pieces around the house and has had to find himself many a dinner while I attended some meeting at TBA. Thank you for being so supportive, patient, and loving. Thank you to my daughters, Marissa and Jocelyn, and my new son, Sam. You are the reason that I became president. To show you that giving back is not just words, that it is possible to juggle it all, and it's possible to do the best you can, knowing it's not perfect. That each of us has the opportunity to shape the world around us and to be the best human being we can be. Thank you for your support, understanding, and encouragement. Rabbi Stern, I thank you for being an extraordinary spiritual leader for the congregation and for me personally. In good times and difficult times, you are always there with a wise word, a funny story, and the best hugs by far. You are a source of great knowledge, passion, and a true heart. And I will definitely miss you saying, Madam President. Rabbi Brown, your time with us was short, but we thank you for all of your efforts. I especially enjoyed Purim spilling with you. I'm not quite sure if that's a word, but I made it up. We wish you great success in your next position. Emma, when you sing, you touch my soul. Your voice is magic and your smile lights up the room. I have so enjoyed getting to know you over this past year, and I'm honored to share deep thoughts and feelings. Don't worry, I will continue to sing in the choir and assist you in any way I can. I know great things are to come. Becky, there are no accomplishments without you. While I tease you that your fingers are in everything, it is your touch that makes us all successful. You took me, a person with no true knowledge of the workings of a synagogue, and shaped me into the president that I am. Anything that was achieved was due to your extreme dedication, knowledge, and tenacity. Not to mention, you're always on top of everything. We are a great team, but mostly because you bring out the best in everyone. Heidi, Gabby, Stacy, Rebecca, and Eva, thank you so much for keeping our children safe, happy, and educated. That's important too. The lay leadership, congregants, parents, and the kids rely on you to keep TBA strong with your dedication and perseverance. Eileen, wherever you are, thank you for your talent and fantastic attitude. Whatever we put in front of you, you always tackle with a smile and a great photo. Alexa and Jenna, sometimes we forget all of the things you do to keep us afloat. Thank you for providing your attention to all the details. You are the first face of TBA, and you do it with grace. Thank you, Doug, also celebrating, for a million things you and your team do without anyone ever noticing. You're a pleasure to work with and are thoughtful, kind, and always ready to lend a hand. To my board and the executive committee, thank you for your dedication, time, and effort. 3 years ago, I challenged you to become more strategic in your thought process so we could move TBA into the future. You accomplished that and then some. You helped direct the temple through all of the transitions and continue to raise the bar through your discussions and actions. You are the true ambassadors to TBA. James, my vice president. As I turn the reins over to you, I know TBA is in the best hands. My wish for you is the same that I had for myself. Make TBA just a little bit better than you received it. James, you are extremely intelligent, outrageously funny, and unbelievably generous. Your commitment to TBA is true and strong, and I know you will be an incredible president. Finally, to the TBA family, to the congregation, you have been there for me through thick and thin. You supported me upon the death of my father and smiled with me in countless services and events. Your words of encouragement and kindness have meant so very much to me. I am deeply, deeply grateful and proud to have been your president. Thank you very much for the honor of serving you. Okay, James, come on up. For those of you who don't know, this gavel was a gift from Bonnie for Stacy because we couldn't find the old one. And I never used it other than at the annual meeting where I got it, but I don't know whether you're going to use it again or not. Maybe. And now, as my final annual meeting comes to a conclusion, I turn the presidency and the gavel over to you, James, to formally adjourn the meeting.
I've been asked to keep my comments to 40 minutes tonight, so I will do my best. First, well, after Carol's nice comments, they really killed what I was going to say about Carol. That's kind of a buzzkill, but let me first just it's been said by many people tonight, but thank you for your dedication, your commitment to the temple. It's an extraordinary example and a hard one to follow. But we all appreciate what you've done the last 3 years and before that and what you continue to do. So thank you so much. Second, it is ironic that we don't have a birthday cake here tonight. However, it is Richie Blacker's birthday today. So we are not going to sing happy birthday because as much as my wife fears my having the microphone, my singing the microphone is even a greater fear of hers. But please find Richie tonight and wish him a happy 43rd birthday this evening. And then I think there's really nothing else to say beyond that. So let me say that I am honored and humbled to be coming into this role. Humble is not a word that is often associated with me. I'll let that settle in for a second. But I'm honored and humbled to be in the role. So thank you very much. I very much look forward to the next several years working with our executive committee, our board, our staff, and serving our congregation. And with that, our meeting is adjourned.